Hello, welcome to Fallout Podcast episode 97, aka Where Are the Obligatory Excuses? It is a futile fall showdown, all 525 songs going head to head. Now in round two, with just a mere 256 songs left. Ultimate Shakedown, 2 eras, 77 to 93 and 94 to 17. Thank you to Annotated Fall Fuel, Reformation Site, Oh Brother, Puritans Falling 5 and all them what fall tonight. Katerer versus Distilled Mug Art, Twister versus The Classical, and The Joke versus Mad Men Ing Dog. Joined as always by Pippington Billy Willie Rugby. How you doing, Pip?
I have never felt better in my life.
Fantastic. Pemberton S. Walker, how are you?
I'll respond to that with a very old obscure jingle. I'm half asleep.
Very good.
Why was that from?
It was like the Wide Awake Club, but it was they did some
Mike Myers.
Yeah.
It was Mike Myers. Was it a Fast Asleep Club?
I don't know. Half Asleep Club.
Yeah, something like that. I remember that. It was before he was Austin Powers, wasn't it?
Yep.
Not joined by Ezra. He's off into the woods.
Coward.
And Oh, I've just come down with a cold. And maybe joined by the marquee tiny Tim Twatwa from the other side. Are we?
Yes. He's not going to miss out on this kind of escapade, is
he? Now, before we get into it, as soon as we don't have a guest, we're going to do a little bit of a futures and past, and we're going to look at an album that we've mentioned a bunch of times throughout the show already, which is the Kenny Everett's Worst LP in the World, which has some pretty strong fall connections. But let me have a bit of a listen. Let me play a few tracks from that.
Okay, whilst you're just queuing that up, I wasn't allowed to watch Kenny Everett
right
growing up. I've only watched like about 3 Kenny Everett sketches in my life. So when you started popping stuff up, that's why I was on Spotify before trying to find Kenny Everett stuff.
So I his radio stuff to his TV stuff.
Oh, the O'Leary household loved Kenny Everett's TV show. It was definitely out every week. We would watch it, and couldn't get enough of that priest with the big hands and him dressed all in leather. It's like we loved it. Couldn't get enough.
Stupid stunt.
Let's New Russia.
So anyway, for a bit of context, he had this radio show on Capital Radio, and he reached out to, I guess, the audience for the worst songs ever. And I think they had 3 or 4 episodes, 3 or 4 collections of them. And eventually they were put together on an album on a vomit green vinyl, apparently, on a Yuck Records, which was actually K-Tel, the budget label. But as we know, one man's meat is another man's murder. Let's have a listen to some of these.
Makes fun of you so, girl.
Make and urge me not to be too slow.
This was I had to have a listen to this before we started. This is one of the worst things that I've ever fucking heard.
Well, it falls into a few categories, doesn't it? Like the obviously mad stuff like that. Legendary Stardust Cowboy one that we just had, which is screaming. There's a couple of them. And then there's these smaltzy ones, which are the spoken word ones. We have a real soft spot. All the Jim Reeves stuff, I love it. And like all about ghost soldiers and this stuff. But this is like schmaltz taken to extreme. This is Pat Campbell, The Deal.
But it's like, it's the implications of this song are so terrifying. This kind of murderous god is just going around.
I mean, if we're going to get into controversial issues this evening, it's like, if you have to date somebody, hold on a minute, you have to date somebody? I thought you were in charge.
Oh, for a long, timeless moment, I stood there, staring at him in shock and disbelief. I mean, how could I tell him to save my wife or save my child when they both mean the whole world and every child? I just knelt down on the floor. Oh, you must love them an awful lot, Lord. Maybe even as much as I do, because...
Not necessarily seeing the logic there, Pat, but continue.
You can't make up your own mind which one to extend your welcome hand to. Now, I know I never asked for very much, Lord, but if I could make you a deal, well, I guess you know what it would be. Let them both live their lives and...
Gentle is the rain that falls softly on the meadow. Birds high up in the trees serenade the flowers with a melody. Oh, 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 see there beyond the hill the bright colors of the rainbow. Some magic from above. Hold me in your arms and say once again.
All right, so we heard Legendary Stardust, Cowboy Paralyzed. We had Pat Campbell, The Deal, and Mrs. Miller's A Lover's Concerto. Now, obviously, by the standards of today, this is normal. But back in those days, in 1977, it was shocking. Anything to say on Everett, the album, or none of this stuff directly influenced any of the false stuff? But of course, it was in the air, the kind of tongue-in-cheek nonsense and the trash strata.
Well, I showed that other clip of, I think it's Pat and Dan's laughing or something with
Rowan and Martin's laughing, right?
Yeah, that is so funny, that clip, because for me, it's like, well, it's almost like pure outsider moment, isn't it? With Legendary Stardust Cowboy trying to do his thing, trying to show some integrity, and just this institutionalized comedy show, just trying to ridicule him and the immovable force and the immovable object, or whatever it is.
Well, also
I really
like Rowan and
moment.
Martin kind of showing themselves as being the wacky kind of out there kind of people, and then somebody who is wacky and out there just kind of blows it at them. I mean, there's the themes we come back to, right? It's like we keep thinking that the fall's normal and we're people, and then in the middle of it, you're like, oh, hold on. I think I started venturing into the cover of Blue Christmas this week because our Kieran was talking about Shaky, and I was like, oh, hold on. They lack context. What about you, Al?
About 15 years ago, maybe 20 years ago, the Ledge, there was a gig, Radio 3 recording, and they played it like late night kind of thing. That was pretty cool. And it was at the end of it, the guy who was the presenter of the program just kind of like made an announcement, which was like, yeah, and at the end of the performance, Legend Stardust Cowboy was wearing nothing but a pair of gold sequined underpants and a big cowboy hat.
We'd expect nothing less. It is brilliant.
Oh, so, in the 70s, but at that point,
the more institutionalized those values, the more it stands out. Because some of those songs on that record, I was like, I'm not really sure if they're actually that strange. Even I'm going to Spain. His voice is weird, and the lyrics are silly. In post-indie music, it's like, it wouldn't. Is it?
It's also a bit sort of like the 90s. There was a lot of like crate diggery type stuff going on, wasn't there? I mean, everything post Nuggets, really. Our experience of popular music has been curated a lot more, hasn't it, than the original experience when these things came out. So it is a bit. We are a bit more sophisticated in our weirdness, I guess. Aren't
We
we?
just got more range, right? It's not as surprising, you think about, I remember reading about the Beatles, like with Lennon and Harrison having like a single LP and going across town to each other's houses, and like someone would get a blues record, and so when you got something that was like as weird as this, I can imagine. But now, as a Spotify playlist, you listen to all of them and you're like, oh. But we been diminished in our ability to see nonsense? Let's have a bit of a listen.
Ruined everything.
I think it made it better.
It took commitment, it took legwork to find these things. Nowadays, click of a button, rubbish.
There's a bit of a thing like that happened with punk, though, wasn't there? Because it's like when the DIY aesthetic like kicked off, it allowed anybody who wanted to and had the energy to make a record, and so there was a big flurry of stuff. But that's not so there's lots of good stuff in it, is there? And it's the same with like electronic music as well. When anyone could get a synthesizer and put some music out, it's like it opens it up, so there's loads of stuff, but it just means there's loads of shit to blade for it.
And that nostalgia thing, the look back bores of like you had to go out and search for it and hard work and that bullshit. You know what I'm hearing now when I'm on the internet? I'm getting kids who were born in like the early 90s who are now nostalgic for LimeWire and for Napster and all stuff. And back in them days you had to search. And it's like same thing. Look back bores. Let's have a listen to some stuff that was more connect to our good friends.
Well, put Steve Bent on, you want to.
No, right. To be fair, right, when you're going to make the look back bores thing.
Yes.
I've just never fucking embraced any kind of like technological advance with this kind of shit. I hated CDs, still hate CDs. Anything beyond that, I kind of like, I could put up with mini disc and that's about it, and I still use that. But it's not look back bores, it's I'm stuck in my fucking wares.
That's true. But there are people that are not as committed as you, Alistair, to your Ludditism. And those are the people I'm really going at. I'll give you an out. I messaged Steve Bent this morning on Facebook to see if he wanted to do an interview with us, but he hasn't got back to me yet. Let's have a listen to I'm Going to Spain.
I'm shocked.
I've sold my car, thrown in my job. I'm 24 years old. I think it's time that I saw the world, and I hate it, yes I hate the cold. And I'm going to Spain, 'cause Norman had a real fine time last year. I hear it doesn't rain. I hope that I can quickly learn the language.
Tooling down the highway doing 79. I'm a twin pipe papa and I'm feeling fine. Hey man, dig that. Was that a red stop sign? Transfusion, I'm just a solid mess of contusions. Never, never, never gonna speed again. Slip the blood to me, bud. I jump in my rod about 8:45.
This crazy intruder. I'm never gonna see it again. Give the clouds in his eyes.
So yeah, we heard we heard the brilliant original I'm Going to Spain by Steve Bent, and then Nervous Norvus Transfusion, both off record. And then, of course, Smith and Ed Blaney covered Transfusion a couple of times. Once we had the acoustic version, which I think was somewhere in Holland, again in 2009, when I think they must have gone on
Copenhagen.
tour. Copenhagen, which is in Denmark, I believe. And
bloody
then
expensive. It's bloody expensive though, mate.
It's the Nordics, isn't it? Brilliant. And then again in Malmo, Sweden, they played the Blaney and Smith European tour. And that's quite a nice version of Transfusion, a big stomper that I've not heard them do before. Of course, people have likened Transfusion to Rausch Rumble as well along the way, but I'm not sure if I quite see it. Anything else to add on the influence of this Kenny Everett LP to the Mighty Fall?
No.
Nope.
Right, let's move on. It says something about your playlist when the song that's about the dangers of nuclear radiation is the least controversial song on the playlist. But if you don't mind, Pip, if you could hit us with...
Wait, on about nuclear radiation?
The Katerer.
It's about nuclear radiation.
It bloody is. I'll make that case very strongly, very soon.
And Dad will keep you warm, and Mom will keep her warm, and...
Oh, hang on. That's the Post Neely man, isn't it? That's not the Fall.
Katerer with a C.
Katerer with a C. Let's see what else we've got here. Let's get the right one. Hang on. That's Free Range.
Oh, he's bloody done it again, hasn't he?
He's done it again.
Come on, mate. Sort it out.
Third time luck.
Chicken and chips off the bone. Pippin, as is customary, take it away.
Well, I feel it feels fitting to start with a giggle, given this is one of the songs that I've been back and listened to what we said last time, and it's very amusing to listen to Ezra laugh for about 5 minutes solid without getting any comments out. The final version there that we were listening to on the Unutterable, it's quite short, isn't it? It's only a couple of minutes long, which is the first thing that jumped out at me. I had to keep going back and listening to it this week. It felt like I blinked and missed it a few times. Bit unusual getting Smith on the automatic double tracking on his voice. You don't hear that very often. Although we would hear it more often in the years that followed this, wouldn't we? Things like Monsoon Fell and stuff. I was looking at the credits, and we were having a bit of fun at the start there, weren't we? Playing some, a few false starts. But as it sounds to me on that record now, he's had some kind of bare bones of a track, hasn't he? And then he's got Funky Side to play over the top of it and get Julia Adamson to drop a bit of her electronic magic on it as well, and it livens it right up. It fits well on the album where it is. So, and it's a good end to that album. And there's some lyrics in it. I mean, it's not just the chicken and chips off the bone, but it's there's a lot of pro tooling going on, I think, with these vocals. But it's there's some excellent drops.
Chicken and chips. It's now the weird thing is because the free range is clearly played over the free range backing track. Now Funky Side wrote Free Range, like all the synths were done by him, but it was several years earlier, and he's well gone by this point. He's out the band by 3 or 4 years by the time this is done. So if he's just straight over the top of the backing track, but Julie has added stuff and like some, especially when you listen to the Post Nearly Man, the Caterer, is again, it gives an idea that maybe she was the one who made the stuff on Panzer Panzer as well, because there's a lot of connection in all those sounds. It's great. I mean, I actually, Free Range has grown on me a lot. I was never a big fan of it, but the more we've listened, but I still prefer this. I think this is a better use of that backing track. And a couple of people in the notes have mentioned, kind of rhythm albums. In reggae, it's very common to do an album where you get 20 different vocalists and they all sing over the same rhythm and the same backing track, and they all make different songs. And that's really interesting. And it's it's quite a common thing to. And when you get into those, you're like, wow, yeah, actually, even a single backing track, you can do like a really diverse things with it. And it's totally possible to not even notice really these are the same backing track. It's like when you're singing the ABC song and someone tells you it's Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, and you're like, oh, it is, isn't it? I've been singing it for 20 years and I've never noticed that before. But
Black.
Yeah, exactly. Alistair, what do you make of the Caterer? Das Caterer, as the Germans might call it. You're on mute, and I didn't do it this time.
Back in the room. Yeah, it must have been up against something that was definitely low-hanging fruit. The first round, I can't remember what it was like, and I've lost all my notes from the first round as well, so I can't really refer back to that. But I'm not dead keen on it. To tell the truth, maybe if I did listen to the lyrics, which generally I don't because I'm a bit deaf and I always get them wrong anyway. I might have been able to extract a bit of fun out of it, but I just think it's a bit tame, a bit kind of like pedestrian, a bit unimaginative. But like I said, I don't listen to the lyrics. And as you were saying about the backing tracks thing, because like the way I work with like a solo project I do, I kind of like layer things over things, but it's all like recorded onto mini disc, and I lose stuff and then find stuff again and reuse it without realizing that I've used it before. But I do end up coming up with something completely different, using it, like for example, exactly the same drum track.
Yeah.
But there you go. But yeah, getting back to the Caterer, I'm not that keen.
No, and let's do an advert for your band. It's Gruntfuttock, I believe. Is that right?
What's it? Peace Mold, yeah.
Good stuff. Get on Bandcamp and have a listen. I really like it. I think the synths going all through. Or just for reference, Alistair, put out "I'm a Mummy," your favorite, and you probably voted for it because I'm Mummy's the cover.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Yeah,
but we all liked it actually. It was like in the first round. I'm not sure about yourself, but the three of us were going mad for it, mostly because of the chicken and chips thing. But like it's a great melody, and there's synths blipping and bleeping and arpeggiating, and like that's great synth bass. I think it's actually one of the best electronic kind of fall songs they did, and Smith's just on top form. So the radioactive thing is, I don't necessarily think the lyrics linked to that at all, but so there was a guy called Mark Waller, I think Mark Uriel Waller, who made a couple of short movies called Glow Boys and Midwatch. Not easy to get. I've not seen either of them, although Leon is going to mention it in his comment. Smith is a caterer in both of those. He briefly appears, and so there's a clip on YouTube. It's only a minute long. I won't play because Smith barely speaks, and so it's kind of but Smith essentially plays a caterer in it, and the Glow Boys refers to them working in a nuclear power plant, and I think there's I don't know if there's an accident there that kind of sets it off, where I'm not really sure. But they're both related to nuclear power. It also says that the book Lint, which is one of the few books that I've read recently in the last few years by a new author, because and which I got from Stuart Lee's recommendation on some show he was on, and it's really funny. It's absolute nonsense. I read it. I don't remember there being any connection to the Katerer or Chicken and Chips, but apparently someone, probably Danny, if I had to guess, says that there is. But well worth a read, like proper next level absurdist wordplay and stuff. It's really funny stuff. Max says, free range, file under pissed disco. Pisco was Mez, the Gordon Ramsay of band leaders. I would definitely dance to this. Not sure what that refers to. Leon, top tune on the great unutterable second half. Was lucky to catch the 2 short films on Mike Uriel Wallace starring Mez, Glow Boys and Midwatch. On release and would love to see them again. Mez is great as the seemingly benign caterer, dishing up the nuclear workers' food which may itself be radioactive. Minimal magic. And Dad will keep you warm and Mam will keep you warm. Stick with me, I am the caterer. I deal chips from the left, chicken and chips off the bone. I offer up all on the menu. Stick with me. No dogs allowed. Get out of my house. I am not your mother. Stick with me. I am the caterer. Top draw stuff. Nothing from Michael E this week, actually. Michael, I hope you're well. Send us your opinions. Do we have anything from Tiny Timothy Twatwa?
So we do. The first is his thoughts on Kenny Everett, which is that he has no strong feelings, but he appreciated his sense of British silliness.
He was silly.
Yeah, he was British as well. So that's
Scouser.
accurate.
He was a Scouser.
Yeah,
from Bootle, near Bootle. If that helps.
Didn't he have a character that it was like a really sort of like filthy name, but it was like a spoonerism?
Yeah, he said it. Cupid stuff.
Yeah, but I think they came up with that was the second name that they had for that character because the first one was kind of like turned down for being obscene, and that they slipped that one.
That's one of the most famous clips is with he's all dressed up on his leathers, and I think Freddie Mercury comes in and he jumps on top of him, and they're basically wrestling together because I think they're all part of the same fun scene. in London at that time. So it was funny stuff. But
it's just a special boys club.
Exactly. Conservative though, apparently, but support Thatcher voted Conservative, and
a Tory conference, Russia thing.
Can't have it all. They're only human, aren't they? These celebrities, they're only human. What does he think about this song?
Stella Black, another Scouse Tory.
Was she a
Tory? E.T. was famous and wasn't human.
No, he wasn't. But he wasn't a Tory either. Thankfully,
Jimmy Tarbuck was.
They all were all the Scouse famous people. Jimmy Tarbuck, Stella Black, McCartney.
Just saying.
No,
Alexis Earle.
Yeah. He was a covert conservative, wasn't he?
Fifth columnist.
But all the way around, carried on going and just ended up back at Checkers.
Right. That's Katerer. The only bit of pleasure I've ever had from this pile of shite was hearing Ezra cackle about chicken and chips off the bone on the last go around. Utter shite.
Boo. Here's what Ezra has to say. I'll pepper every third word with a laugh. See, Mez had the role of caterer in the 2 films about nukes. I guess this might be chuckle about nuclear power. This song, it has the same music as Free Range. Oh, really? I wouldn't notice. Which is a worry song and appears a few tracks after Midwatch, which is also about nuclear skullduggery. So surely some pattern here. Chips from the left and flesh melted off the bone from nuclear right. Smashing music, smashing words. Imperial Chutzpah, 3 out of 3. It's calling it. It is up against a left-wing fall choice. Are You Are Missing winner B-side, Distilled Mug Art.
Left wing or left field? I feel more left field. I guess both, really.
Aye. Yes, in the minefield that is this evening's show, that song heavily features a mouth harp, also known as a jaw harp.
Really?
That's what Wikipedia says. Anyway, what do you think of this track, Alistair? Distilled Mug Art.
I kind of quite like it, really. It's got like a fucked up folky quality to it, which appeals to me. It's like a wow effect on it as well, because I quite like that. I don't know. It's just
phased, some phasing or a flange going on.
Yeah,
could be natural from the mix.
Yeah, but yeah, the Jaws harp thing. I've got one of them. Like, but can't play it. But it kills me teeth. But the song itself, very good. It's not brilliant, but I quite like it. Yeah.
Do you think the mouth harp thing is? Do you think that's analog, or do you think it's just a sample that sounds a bit like that?
I reckon it'll be analog. That
I think it's analog. I think it's analog because by that point they were in a pretty stripped down mode. Although Spencer Birtwistle was on board doing some stuff, but most of IOMS and Winner, except for Crop Dust with its kind of sample, is pretty analog all the way through. I think it's like
it really sounded like a sample to me, not a sample of a mouth harp either. It sounded like a sample that they processed and produced to sound like that kind of thing, or they maybe stumbled upon it accidentally and were like, all right, come on, let's have a jam over this.
It could be because I liken this, although they're very different. I get the Crop Dust kind of feel from this, mostly because it is based around that one loop essentially, but there's obviously live guitars, multiple live guitars, and the pretty nice stuff being played. Actually, very folky, beautiful acousticy stuff, and that hypnotic. I could have easily had it for 7 or 8 minutes, like kind of like Crop Dust. Almost like Crop Dust is hanging on that sample all the way through, but you could remove it, and I think it might still hold your attention because there's just some kind of tension and some driving stuff going in there. I'm kind of calling it. I'm sad to see it go if it does, because it is a really unique song that once it rewards multiple listens, and I think you were saying that this week as well, Phil. What's your take on it?
So I was really dismissive of this first couple of times I heard it. I thought it was another skit song, to be honest with you. And it was only really when I got the lyrics up that I was quite surprised at how much work has gone into this. It was another one of those intentionality sort of conversations that I was having with myself, because it reads at first like he's just kind of reading the back of an advert or something like that. Well, I get the first thing to say is it feels a bit like a list song. It's got these number punctuations, although they're not in numerical order or time order or anything like that. God knows where he's drawing them numbers from. At first I thought he was just making them up. And then this distilled mug art theme sounds like an advert for putting pictures of something on a cup. But that's on one level. But then the more that you sit with it, and the more that you hear how he is delivering those lines, the more that you realize how much thought has actually gone into it, and the fact that it's actually quite a good metaphor for this idea of consuming art and how it's turned into a commodity, and the process of I guess it's important to a musician, the idea of how you record your stuff and what the legacy is of that kind of thing. And so the more that you sit with this idea of distilled mug art, which sounds so throwaway at the start of it all, the more kind of important it feels and the more poignant it feels as you're going through it. So that really struck me this week. I was dead surprised the more that I sat with the words of it. And the music is, I think you've both hit it mostly, but it did sound very Western to me. It sounded a bit sort of like Crop Dust, like that desert psychedelia, bit Ennio Morricone, sort of 60s spaghetti Western kind of vibe. That because I always think with the spaghetti westerns, with them being made in the late 60s, they've always got that touch of psychedelia, even if it's just the haircuts of the cowboys or that it's got that 60s feel about it.
The film itself that they were using, those saturated kind of images.
Yeah, and that's what this song feels like. It feels like it's baked in sunlight, doesn't it? The whole thing. Yeah, there are a few different guitar voices. You've got a nylon strung strumming going on, and then you've got somebody obviously doing the old classical upward finger movement where you rest your finger on the next string as you're playing it, that sort of style. And it all comes together quite nicely, but it's a song that you've really got to sit with to get something out of it. It's really quite an interesting bit of art. But like I said, on first listen, I just thought it was a bit naff. I've really had to take my time with it. Really.
Yeah, it's kind of this is another one of those ones. What was I talking about last week? Yeah, Pine Leaves, right? That seems to
Oh
get
yeah.
dismissed quickly by a lot of people, and maybe it's just our sensibilities that I don't think we're doing it out of a sense of perversity to say, well, no one likes it, so we're going to. I think it's genuinely like it's just a little weird, strange song that once you've listened to it, it's very easy to dismiss. It's a B-side of a Are You Missing Winter era, so it's kind of you might give it a couple of listens. But I remember used to buy hundreds of like tapes for like 20p and 30p from like record shops in Wigan and go through the B-sides and literally edit out 20 seconds and 30 seconds of the B-sides and stuff that I really liked. This is obviously pre-sampling and all that stuff, and make compilations of it, and found so many really sweet and unusual kind of songs. And this reminds me of that. It's like, after looking through like 50 of these, 100 of these, you'd end up with a compilation tape that was like proper strange, weird, small kind of tracks that the bands themselves obviously hit on something interesting, but didn't feel it was worthy of going on an album, or maybe deliberately wanted to keep it as this kind of little gem thing. And that's what it is. And Ezra, great tune about watching mugs melt into tables and screens slide out of faces, or faces out of screens and screens into faces while tripping balls. Now it could
That's
be
the answer to everything.
it could well be, but Smith's not likely to be tripping balls. But the fact is that, again, when we're talking about Grant Morrison's nature of taking somewhat innocuous kind of statements, or even cartoon, like comic book characters that had almost nothing about them, and kind of imbibing them with meaning, which is something they do a lot, and especially in the Doom Patrol stuff or Animal Man stuff like that, where you take a second or third rate character. I mean, I remember when he took Batmite and turned it into Batman's like essential, like Batman's essentially dying and having visions of the afterlife, or visions of kind of his brain losing consciousness, and Batmite's talking to him, and it's like, wow, it's like taking something as ridiculous and stupid as that and making it like actually meaningful. And it's like,
Did you ever read the Seven Soldiers of Victory series that he did, where he took 7 different characters from like Silver Age
and they
comics
didn't even meet? There's one of them
yeah,
where
they don't even meet. Yeah, they don't even meet in it.
but
Yeah,
they
it's brilliant.
solve some kind of like issue together with it. I mean, it's such unique.
Yeah.
And I love that. And I
But
kind
that
of think,
idea, I do think that the one I was talking about before is where he took that phrase "shadow cabinet" and turned it into like this villainous thing, and that's what I took from Distilled mug art. It's like an innocuous advert that's probably lying around in the studio, and he's seen it a couple of times and then thought, oh yeah, I can do something with that. And some of these bits may well have been read straight off the advert, but it's having the eye to be able to reframe those things and be able to get something more poignant from it, isn't it?
yeah, it's a very dense collage of stuff. A red cup growing on desk, burnt on digital slow, whilst the engineers trying to pick up bits left on top of screen. They are amusing themselves, trying to make politicians or actors look funny or better. Good idea for war history program, torn off bits of pictures of barbed wire. We've talked enough through the Luciani stuff that it's like, don't dismiss this. It's easy, you can do. You say it's nonsense, of course, and in some way it is, right? But it can also be viewed as something that has beauty and meaning in multiple layers. And mug art, yeah, I mean, yeah, aren't we all mugs for digging this kind of nonsense? And it's kind of, yeah, how many ways do you want to interpret that? Because the thing is, it's like, oh, you wouldn't have thought about it, right? But even if you spent only a half an hour writing these lyrics, the way your mind works and the way he takes things, he would have thought of the 4 or 5 different meanings of the word mug
it's why it would have jumped out at him in the first place, isn't it?
Yeah,
Do you know what I
exactly.
mean? He's got it's whether it's I mean with Smith, I'm tempted to say it's just innate talent because he was just wired like that right from the start. But I think for a lot of people who work creatively, it's something you get better at because you practice it, and the more you do it, the better you get at it, isn't it? It's is it the writer's eye they call it, where you're just constantly everything that you're looking at, you're thinking, can I use that? How would that fit in a story?
Exactly. Max doesn't necessarily agree. He says should have been left on the studio floor. Oh well. Leon,
Max, you hurt me, Max.
Leon Distilled Mug, dig the beef heart reference. MES reading out numbers, how Mez can turn an unpromising sketch into folk art. And I think that's the perfect way to describe it.
Yeah.
The best line, give the folks mumps to order with their apple shape. The whole is like a tiny detail, magnificently magnified. He's swaying me a bit going into this. The chicken and chips was doing it for me, but even Ezra.
See Ezra, you should have come.
No. Listen to this. Ezra gave Distilled Mug out 3 out of 3 and then took down Daz Caterer to 2.5 because he wants Distilled Mug Art to go through. So let's take a vote.
Interesting times.
Has Tim told us what he thinks of this song?
I don't think he has actually. Nice bit of murky fluff. I like the sound of the guitar against the noisy and crappy recording quality. Some nice vocal interplay between Mez and Mez, but otherwise pretty unremarkable.
Okay, so which way
And
is he gone?
He has gone for Distilled Mug Art.
So
Ooh,
Max has gone for Caterer and Ezra has gone for Distilled Mug Art. Let's have a look at Michael. He's not voted this week, so it's all to play for. Alistair, which way are you going?
I'll go with Distilled Mug Art. I do actually quite like the song. Like I said before, it's not brilliant, but it's definitely got a character to it, which is nice.
Philip?
Yeah, I'm going to go Distilled Mug Art, I think.
My vote does not matter, but I think I would have probably been drawn that way too. Although I do really like the Caterer. I think it's great. And not just
screw it, let the Caterer go through.
It's out. I'm sure Free Ranger's got a good chance. In fact, I might have already gone through. Can't remember. Anyway, Distilled Mug Art makes it through to round 3 against all odds. It's in with the big boys. Next up is Twister.
Squad on the road, rising to mine. By arguing with my autobiographer, when I heard this chick interrupt.
Nice. So I believe that was the Peel session version of Twister, but as we know, all versions are open for discussion. So back to you, Pip. What do you make of Twister?
Well, I'll be honest with you, I played that one by mistake. I hadn't really realized to put that one on.
It's a bit slower. It's a bit slower, a bit more spacious. I think the album or the single version, the B-side version is a little bit more. I'll play a bit in a bit. Don't worry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I was once I realized what was playing, I left it playing because I wanted to hear it. So, and the guitar tone's much better on that than on the record version. I thought I do find the guitar tone a bit off-putting on the record. It's a bit too peevy for my palate, really. But the song itself, I don't know, it's kind of swinging in and out of favor of it, really. It was when I first heard it, I remember this going through and thinking it was better than I thought it was going to be, but I didn't remember it being great. And the more that I listened to it, the more that I appreciated the breaks and how weird this song is. I think the first break where there's that I think it's like a tom that's mic'd up differently on the kit, isn't it? And he hits the tom, and there's a Hammond chord at the same time, and everything stops. And then this weird noise builds up over the the back of it, which is actually the chorus of the song, which is Breaks shouting Twister over and over again. And it's like the more I started deconstructing it, the more odd the choices that they made were in the song like that. And that's actually the best bit of it, is realizing what a strange little ditty it is. And so I kind of fell in and out of love with it. But I did really enjoy listening to it. It was great picking it apart because some cracking ideas in it. And it also reminded me of Sleep Debt Snatches quite a bit. Although I can't quite put my finger on why. And my only other thought about it is that the bass must have been so fucking loud in the studio, because any little movement of his finger, you can hear it picking up on the strings. If you get the headphones on, when there's no bass playing, you can still hear Stanley's fingers
Ominously
moving
hanging around in the
strings.
background.
So I don't know how deliberate that was in the process, but it was obviously a definite decision to leave it in, and it's interesting.
Yeah, I noticed the twists and turns, if you will, structurally speaking, and I think that is really interesting. Those breaks, you don't get a lot of that stuff in Fall songs, and it's not as if someone else has come in to suggest that that's just the same setup of the band. So, Simon Rogers in this, so we know he's more.
What year is it?
But this is 88's Friends Experiment Era. I think it was a B-side in there. Might be wrong. It's about that. And so I think you're talking Marsha and Simon Rogers, and the crew is all in there. So
the opening salvo of the lyrics it's really weird. Even for the Fall, it's an odd. It's a bit spoiled Victorian child, isn't it?
It's a little bit meta. Magnificent structure straddled the river as I dictated my autobiography to my biographer. When I heard this tune, my title was Renegade Genius, but was interrupted much too soon. It's quite on the nose for Smith. It's quite linear in that sense, but and also, as we pointed out, I think before, it was a cop-out that he decided to call his quote-unquote autobiography Renegade and not Renegade Genius. It clearly should have been. It seems to be maybe about some kind of train journey, but because it's got that twangy American feel, for me, it does feel like mules through the desert. That's through the desert. That kind of vibe to it because of the twang, which I do like, but it runs out. The novelty runs out for me pretty quickly. Some nice pads from Marsha, I guess, and Mez singing the riff, which I like, but again, the novelty of that wears off. And there's a couple of tracks tonight that could have been way longer. Like I said, Distilled Mug Art, and when we get to the classical, it's like that could have gone for 20, 30 minutes. But this, I was like, do you really need that third verse and chorus? I was probably good with two. But having Mez in both your ears, what could be better? Alistair, what do you reckon to Twister?
I really quite like it. It's another example of a B-side that's just sort of like quite a lot better than probably the A side. The guitar riff at the beginning of it, I think there's a bit of recycling gone on later on with Deadbeat Descendant. But it's kind of like that era, in it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the way it sort of like starts off with a sort of like twangy guitar thing, and you're thinking, all right, yeah, this is like fairly simple, sort of predictable rock and rolly kind of fodder. But yeah, then it gets really weird, as Phil kind of mentioned, and I do remember this from like the first time round, really liking it. And it does get a little bit repetitive, but it's still good. It's still better than a lot of the stuff from this era. If it was Friends sort of era, Friends, it was a really good lineup, but not one of my favourite LPs. But this is remarkably interesting.
Yeah, I've got a feeling it was the B-side to Victoria. It was on 12-inch of Victoria. So
I can't think another band who would put a pop sounding song like this out with the choices they make on this song. It's yeah, I do find it very odd. Not in a bad way, just in a strange way.
This is a weird choice, and like we said a bunch of times, like Friends Experiment, there was, if you look at Curious Orange, Seminole Live, Friends Experiment, which all came out relatively close to each other, there's so many good songs, and yet somehow they failed to make a good album. Curious Orange is decent, it's fine, right? Friends is okay, but it's very patchy, and Seminole is, as Marsha said, the biggest piece of shit she's ever been involved in. But still, there is a classic album there, and but we take what we're given. Max said Twister. If this was a Guy Ritchie movie, then Alan Ford would have 100 grand on Twister to beat the classical, but not till the 5th round. Lots of sonically interesting stuff happening, courtesy of Marsha, I guess. If I had to guess, it would be courtesy of Simon Rogers, but I'm sure there's she was involved. Leon, Twister is great in its Peel version, like the guitar lick followed by big drums. Lyrics seem to be based on the experience of writing the tune Twister on the train and the mundane but twisted environs, possibly. What about Tiny Tim?
Yeah. Are we going to play a bit more of the Peel version?
Yeah, I'll put it. Oh, I was going to put the original one on. Or do you want to hear more of the Peel?
Follow it up with Deadbeat Descendants.
Now, when was Deadbeat Descendant? Wasn't that Curious Orange? So that came before this.
It's Descendant, Cab It Up, 12.
Yeah, so I think Deadbeat came out before Twist, but we never know when they're written, right? So it's tricky. But
this could have been written any time, couldn't it?
Yeah. All right. Tell us what Tim thinks, and I'll line up.
He says, bit plodding and cumbersome, but I like the way it whips up a storm at points. Sounds like a B-side, and not in the way that we think of the Fall of prior period where every B-side equaled the A-side, but in the more unusual way. Pleasant enough. Don't miss it when it's gone.
Aye, I'll play a bit of the original, the studio version, and then the Peel.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's not bad. There's just something just doesn't quite grab me, and it's up against a big boy. Let's have
ready.
What have we heard, everyone? Have everyone has said something? I've not told you what Ezra thinks, I think.
No, what did Ezra say?
What does Ezra think? He says, a Philistine on the bunker chat claimed that Twister is all twang and no glory. I very humbly beg to differ to the humblemost degree. The 87 Peel session version takes a Californian beach twang and dumps a sack of soot all over it. That sunshine, post-industrial train music of the highest order, destined to pick up a dance craze as we all choke to death on methane. Lyrically not sure, but it seems to doff its cap to the Ribblehead Viaduct and some of those fops what Ken Russell made booby films about. Entirely great. Then you know you're in trouble when Ezra's review of the song is better than the song itself. All right, it is up against. Not sure what else I can say that hasn't already been said. Fave bit the bass solo at 420. We'll talk more about the bass in a little while. Leon, classical, what hasn't been said? So good. Best use of two drummers. Perfect as an opener. Make no excuses for that lyric. I'm sure we will touch on that at some point. Here's what here's what I say. That bass line, the crashing drums, that noisy guitar right off the bat. And Smith just sets it off, and from the very start, there's just the riff of all riff, and it just sets up that entire era of Heck. It feels to me like the mix is absolutely perfect. They're all almost stood in line, and they all just somewhat almost imperceptibly take a little step forward. So this idea in a lot of electronic music of side chaining, where you basically have what it does is every time the beat hits, every time the kick drum hits, it just marginally reduces all the other instruments just slightly. And your ears don't really hear it, but what it does is obviously pushes forward the bass drum. It almost feels like this is happening like all the way through this track, it highlighting different instruments without really making a huge change to the mix. The bass will step forward, and the guitars will then Mez will, and then the drums, and it's kind of just such a perfectly balanced mix. Just enough variation all the way through, especially the percussion from the two drummers. And Mez kind of dancing around that main idea of the chorus. I never felt better in my life, just waiting. They hinted it like 3 or 4 times through the song, and then all of a sudden just comes in. I never felt better and then it's used sparingly. It just comes in, drops in and out. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic musically. What more can one say? But there is much more to say because it's just so dense. It's just so beautiful. And we will get to the words, but that's my take on the music. What about you, Pip? He's muted.
Who is it? Who said about best use of two drummers? I'd probably go along with that. Yeah, I think it probably is. I think it releases all the promise of that, doesn't it, in this tune? And I agree with you about the depth production touch of allowing each instrument to breathe when it needs to in the mix. I think it is excellent the way it's done. It's almost a bit too good, I think.
Is it a Leckie recording?
Not Hex. No, he's not. He's not on the scene yet. No.
Yeah. But...
Who's got the credit for it then?
Amazingly, given how big an album it is, I don't know.
Is it's just an engineer credit, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, Richard Mazda, who I really don't know anything about. It's, produced.
Get in touch, Richard. Get in touch. We want to touch.
He was the in-house producer for IRS, which is the Miles Copeland label, the REM one that had a lot of crossover with Step Forward, I think. So he worked with Birthday Party, Alternative TV, Suburban Lawns, great band, as well as Nana Cherry, Bootsy Collins, and The Average White Band. So very nice. But what of the song, Philip?
Yeah, so what did I get up to with that? So the production I really like on it, and I think the drums are really good on it, and the bass is exceptional. It's not particularly complicated what he's playing, but it's absolutely perfect, and it does keep your attention all the way through. And he's doing the same thing over and over again. Oh, I didn't do what I said I was going to do, did I? We'll come back to that. And the other thing that strikes me about the whole tune is how can something this noisy sound so dreamy? It sounds like a dream feels. That's the best way. And I think part of the problem with this is that it's kind of like it's an experience, isn't it? The classical, rather than it being a song as such. It's like I can't really imagine someone sitting down at the piano to play it. It's more of you have to see the Falls doing this thing and experience it for the minutes that it's on. So I think that's why it's very precious to a lot of people, isn't it? Because it's an experience, and you can't really kind of pass that on any other way. But to get to the bit that everybody is everybody's referenced but nobody's talked about so far is the bit at the start, isn't it? And we were, I guess, reflecting a bit around how times change, and in other ways they don't change at all. So I do think the point that's being made is an important point, and it seems just as pertinent now as it ever has done, about, how representation happens, identity and how protected should be about that or not, is all still a relevant debate at the moment, isn't it? And I think he tackles it head on and maybe makes a bit of a ham-fisted job of it, but I don't think it's an illegitimate issue to explore.
No. And wanting to talk about it now so we can talk about the rest of the lyrics and it doesn't overshadow the entire song or the entire relationship that someone would have with this band or this writer. I thought about my stance on it a lot. I think the best thing I've come across is the lad, I think his name's Chris, who runs the Annotated Fall, and I think it's closest to what I kind of would maybe sum it up. It says it may be intended as an attack on tokenism, but it's unsubtle and misdirected and inevitably comes across as racist. Now, I don't know if it inevitably comes across as racist, but it's like, yeah, that's, it's sure, if you want to make a point about tokenism representation, absolutely, but just putting it out there, knowing that Smith's never going to really explain it, although he does in some interviews and arguably makes it far worse. If you want to read those, please do. It's on the Annotated Fall. I'm not going to get into it here, but making those kind of big, heavy statements with the knowledge that you're never really going to explain them in any way, it gets you thinking. You have to make your own mind up as a Fall fan about where you stand on that. However, it is part of the song. The rest of the song deals with a broader sense of lyrics about nationalism to some degree, about what it means to be British, and pokes fun at the pompous nature of being English and being British. And this is something that Smith does all the way through, no more than things like the English Scheme, where it's very much more comedic. This is a little bit more abstract. Poking fun at the institutions. And
what do you make of his opening lyric of there is no culture is my brag? Do you think he's I'm assuming it's a play with Melvyn Bragg, first of all.
Sure.
But just the sentiment that it's saying, because I only recently found out where we adopted the word culture. It was when the Romans left, and we used it to describe what the Romans did.
Yeah, so they did. So what did they do?
It's always been.
Yeah, I mean the Melvyn Bragg kind of pun there at the beginning possibly is definitely, setting up this whole thing of like, all right, Sunday evening television, here's your little bit of culture for the week. This is the home of the vain. And then he goes off in all sorts of different directions that are very hard to pin down. But the idea of the classical, the idea of coming back, it's again, we talked about the oblique nature of the Distilled mug art lyrics, and these are equally oblique in, maybe not equally, but these are very oblique.
I was listening to Melvyn Bragg on Radio 4 yesterday, actually. Oh no, it was Thursday.
Oh, you're a big Radio 4 hound, though, aren't you?
Yeah, like In Our Time. In Our Time's a decent show.
Yeah, but I kind of forgot just how nasal his voice was, and that kind of like took me back to his spitting image when he used to have the puppets of him with like the baby bottle that he'd be using as like a Vicks kind of expectorant type thing.
Right. What's your take on the classical, Al?
Right, I'm going to go straight for the lyric side of things because it's kind of easy for me because I don't really hear what's going on with like
there are advantages to being there.
There's a very obvious poor choice of words going on. I don't know what point he's trying to make, but I think it sounds like a really ham-fisted way of going about it. But like getting back into the music, I bloody love it. You've been mentioned before, like the two drums thing. I don't think it's the best example of like the two drum lineup and the way that they kind of interact with each other. Kind of like tempo house.
Did you say it is the best or it isn't the best?
No, I don't think it is. No.
What's your best one then? What's your best one?
It depends what mood I'm in, but I mean, like Tempo like sprung to mind because that's like a longer tune, and they seem to be it's like it's more up front because you've not got the guitar there to kind of like distract.
You've never liked guitars.
Well, you can tell by the way you play them. But I love the plonky keys on it. That's dead subtle in the background, but it's just like it's a big fuck you kind of thing. And the amount of like discord and sort of like abrasion in there, like with the guitars, very good. But yeah, it just kind of gets tainted by the words. It's a difficult one to listen to nowadays because of that. Whereas when I first started listening to it, it didn't really occur to me.
Different times.
The ever changing.
As much as they change, the more they stay the same. We all have to make up our own minds on these things at the end of the day, and the ongoing debate of art and artist and intention is
which is why everyone's going to be really excited about a new podcast, which is going through all of Wagner's work.
Exactly.
Going up Wagner's Ring.
Exactly. Here we go. As promised, let's get into that bass line now. Paul Hanley straight out says they're arguing over who wrote the bass line, although you would guess it was Steve Hanley because he seems to have written all the Fall songs. But you know, Paul Hanley seems to suggest that the dude from Duran Duran, John Taylor, wrote it. And I was like, oh, I didn't
realize it was Paul Hanley that had said it.
Oh, yeah, Steve. I don't think Steve said it. Have we got it? Did I copy it from?
Do you want me to share it?
Is it the raw bit that I didn't copy from the annotated file? So yeah, if you want to play that clip of John Taylor playing the bass line, or about 3.5 minutes in, if you play it from the
the most replay.
Just go back a bit because he's already in it there.
Believe me, he's going to say it again.
That sort of thing. So we've got a main groove, and Nick, Andy trading.
Sorry.
Go back to about 3:20 or something.
That I was a big fan of. I tried playing it one day, but I needed to use a pick.
I didn't realise how well spoken he was, actually, to be honest with you.
Oh, the posh boys. Well, the Brummies, though, aren't they? He's the same Brummie.
The Brummies.
That's just Barracuda, right?
Well, he says that it's chic. What Chic song does he say it is?
Well, that Gallop.
Yeah, I mean the Gallop. Yeah, maybe.
But... the Gallop. Barracuda.
It's like that Live Aid song.
Yeah, I mean it's a great bass line, but you know whether or not it's the classical, who knows?
Lead lines.
It's not
that's
that
enough.
Bit, though, is it? It's not that's that bit. It's this.
Go on.
Then he goes back into part A.
Yes.
Who we got left?
It's a really good cover of Planet Earth on the Frank Side bottom 10-inch mini LP thing, but it's not Frank who's doing it; it's just some guy. Right. And he ends up with it. Finishes with a big burp, which is brilliant.
It's a great song. It's a top class song. Here Ezra says another train of derangement. I think one of Messi's best lyrical modes is the theme of England, Britain, Albion, etc., etc. He seems to nail the weird web of references that constitute national identity, at least the way I've experienced it. The song, along with Paintwork and more than a few others, really tie those tentacles to the mass. Indeed. And we will, I'm sure we'll come back to it and we will try and deal with this thorny issue one more time. But Tim's always the voice of reason. What does he say?
Well, he's cut to the chase. Not much needs saying, does it? I just know how fucking great the bass line is, especially the high up bits and the pummeling drums. Top tier shit.
Yes. So it is vote time. Is it Twister versus the classical? I mean, really? Do we have to? It is the classical all the way for me, Alistair.
Classical.
Aye. Philip, are you going to do the wise thing, or are you going to spit your dummy out?
Well, possibly both. I'm going for the classical because I think it's fucking amazing.
So is Max. Ezra's torn, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. Now, just as we thought we dug ourselves out of the mire, and I totally did not set this up at all. It was just, and I didn't even realize it until this morning when I was having a look at it and making my notes, and I was like, oh, okay. The classical followed by the joke. Okay, fair enough. Well, why don't we deal with all the big issues at the same time? Let's have a listen to the joke of Cerebral Caustic.
Go back to your disease, but control room. Don't be nice about it. Just spit it back. Why don't you be mature about it in your gray round coats? What up? The joke.
Yeah, no messing. Straight ahead garage riff. The drums are awesome. The bass is a bit light. I think a better mix would help, but we said that a lot about Cerebral Caustic thing. I think it's Smith in proper monk style mode of singing. And again, dancing around the idea of that chorus, that perfect 2-word chorus just dropped in, but he doesn't do it at the beginning. He holds off and he drops it in just really sparingly. Got great chorus riffage. It's just pure pop sensibility. And it's done in a blink. It's less than 3 minutes. Funky sigh on the drums, proper pummeling, and then right at the end you get a breakbeat coming in, and I wonder whether that was the genesis of the track, whether it was like funky side playing over a breakbeat. But I was like, I should message him, but I hassled him last week about where Dave Bush was living, so I don't want to hassle him too many times.
It's not push our luck with lovely Simon.
He's so nice, but I'll wait and see if anyone knows. But I think it's a great tune. But once again, we got to dig into Smith's choice of lyrics. And okay, I get it. It's a ham-fisted attempt at.
Why did you look at me when you looked so exasperated there?
Oh God! All right, so. All right, it's PC gone mad. It's political correctness gone mad. All right, Stuart Lee's got it all covered. Go listen to Stuart Lee's monologue. He's not joking. He really does think political correctness has gone too far, and it's not a good look. But it's such a great song.
Brendan, have you read that interview with Christian Guru Murphy?
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that one.
That means I've got to change the sign again now, doesn't it? How many episodes it's been since somebody's mentioned the Christian Guru Murphy interview?
I mean, it's such a great tune. It's such a great chorus. And even the idea of it, if you thought that Smith was not like proper serious about this stuff, you could be like, okay, it's like, I get what you're saying. You're making a little cheeky jab at the political correctness. Sure, we can take a little bit of that. Hold on, 5 years in a PC camp. Might be a little. You may have stepped several steps over the line there. What more can I say? It's like you do not make this easy for us, Mark. A fucking great banging garage tune, and just sitting there with a big fucking shit-eating grin on your face, like, what did I do? What did I do? What did I say? Come on, Phil, help me out.
Okay, right. First things first. It's another fucking naff guitar tone. It's fucking peevied up to buggery. It's awful. I do not like the production on this record at all. It stinks. I don't think it's that great a tune either. I was trying to think of another song that had that kind of descending chord riff, and there must be millions of them, but I couldn't think of any one in particular that kind of that it reminded me of. other than it reminded me of lots of different songs. So there was nothing really going for it until Mez jumps on the vocal line, and then everything just livens up. It's fucking brilliant. And to me, it's like that's the money there. That's the talent that you're paying for, is that he knows that just like anybody else in the band can step up whenever they absolutely need to. He's just got it on tap. He just knows how to do it and to liven the song up. And the lyrics are very just in the economy of what he's saying and how it fits with the music and stuff. It's very spacious, but it's perfectly yelped over the top, isn't it? And I love some of the plays of word that he gets going, where he's talking about ward on, ward off. It's a nice play between the spell of putting a ward on yourself and warding something off because you are, essentially just dismissing it or whatever from your life. And I do get the frustration. I'm not as dismissive about people's frustration, I guess, of because it's not about people. This to me is not about people saying Looney left or something of that ilk. To me, this is a song about the people who say, actually, who feel it's their job to correct you. And I think it's to be offended on other people's behalf and that kind of thing, which I do think is a bit of an issue. Again, it's like these are topics that have not gone away. These are still sort of topics that have got more acute, if anything, in the sort of collective conscious. And so it's interesting, isn't it, that we're still sort of wrestling over this kind of issue. But I guess as so we should. It's, freedom of speech and freedom of thought and freedom of action are all things that we should be constantly debating, not with a view to removing them, but just how to expand them, really. I'm a big believer in the Liberation Project and the fact that, we should be trying to find freedom in every aspect of our lives. So if that's what he is saying, then I'm all for it. And if it's for bashing people who feel it's their job to put limits on other people's behavior when they've got no mandate for doing it, then I think I'm behind that as well, to be honest with you. So I'm not as dismissive of it, but at the same time, I refer the honourable member to my previous answer about ham-fisted fucking attempts to do things, and it's I'm sure he could have come up with a cleverer way of saying it, but there's clever bits in the song, so I guess I agree with you on that front. But yeah, I don't have a problem with pushing authoritarianism back. They can fuck off. I guess that's where me and Al drink from the same well.
Yeah, I would say that unless you are directly relating the PC camp to Second World War prisoner of war camps, and I'm not sure whether that is directly what he's referring to, then
I don't read it.
I thought that was a game.
Well, we know about his game with his sisters, right? But yeah, there's nothing as outwardly, explicitly offensive in this song as in the classical in that same sense. This is more of a comment, and you can interpret and take it as whichever way you want to take it. And one of the ways that has been brought up is that there's the Milan Kundera book called A Joke, in which the main character writes a joking postcard to his girlfriend where he talks about Long Live Trotsky, and this is interpreted as serious, and because of that there's very serious repercussions for the character. And so I'd never heard anything suggesting that Smith read Kundera, but this was a really popular author in the early 90s, right?
I read that on the annotated file as well. I thought it was interesting, but I'm not sure you can draw a direct link between the two, but I'm sure he would have known the origin of words. The phrase political correctness is a Maoism, isn't it? That's where it comes. Cultural revolution in China. So that's why it's used as pejorative, isn't it? It's because of its communist history.
Yeah. So once again, we find ourselves torn between the art and the artist. And Leon once heard that you could predict the quality of a Fall gig by how much effort Mez puts into singing the line 5 years in a PC camp. A good start with a diseased hut. Thereafter, it's just about maintaining energy. And yeah, absolutely. This is the you hear the person could sing the phone book, and this is Smith doing that. He's just jumps on a generic track and just energizes it. Max, if an American band did this, they'd have been all over the cover of the NME, probably the Kings of Leon or something. Layered guitars writhe and spit like cats in a bath. Mez dangerously close to Piers Morgan anti-woke with talk of PC camps equating political correctness with the Jewish Holocaust was always crap, regardless of the look back bores. That's kind of where I knew, obviously I read his comments before, that's where I was saying, like, I'm not necessarily sure if it's that if he's making that explicit of a comment. And after we dug into the idea with the Pine Leaves last week, which was a very sensitive way to deal potentially with that issue off the same record, is interesting if and when the two of them come head to head, which is now inevitable given how the universe works.
I think it's a little bit of a stretch, though. I'm not sure you can make a direct interpretation that way, but it's an open field, isn't it? You just go make your case, really.
Al, have you told us what you think? I'm so confused at this point.
No, I've not.
What do you reckon?
I picked up on a word you used before, like that just kind of like sums it up for me, which is generic. I'm not like
doesn't sound like the kind of thing I'd say.
But right, the cerebral caustic, I'm not dead keen on it. I don't really listen to it, so I'm not dead familiar with it. And the reason I just choose not to listen to it, it's not one of my favourites. However, one of the good things about doing the podcast is it's forced me into doing it. And yeah, it is one of the better ones off Caustic. And another good thing about it, doing the podcast as well, is because I don't listen to the lyrics. I get all this stuff explained to me, and I can't be asked looking at the annotated file because it involves using computers, and that's just far too sort of like technologically advanced for me. I mean, like, you do all your notes and everything on computers. I'm here with pen and paper. But it's an alright song. No idea about the lyrics. But yeah, it's generic.
Well, Ezra says the Joke versus Mad Men Ing Dog. Not sure either of these are here. There's much better to be had on respective albums. What didn't get this fell, let's knock both these out and get Distilled, Classical, and Twister through for the love of proper good stuff. Well, no can do, my friend. It is up against Mad Men Ing Dog off the Marshall Suite from the year of our Lord, the 20th century.
Well, man, you and this dog has lost the plot. Time said, lost the plot. Gone to the rock wires, rock not outlawed. The story yellow card, the money's in the bank. They lay arm on there.
Wait a minute, what's everything starts sounding like Duran Duran after a while?
A little bit, doesn't it?
When all the citizens retire to take their clothes off and perspire, it's one of those rules the greatest fools obey, because the sun is far too sultry and one must avoid its ultraviolet ray. Bad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The toughest Burmese.
I'm not sure necessarily.
That's these days.
I'm not quite sure how those songs are connected. This John Hamm tribute. It's
a bad time's just around the corner.
I love that. I love that one. Don't put your daughter on stage, like Mrs. Worthington.
Quite like the let's not be beastly to the Germans.
Getting better, isn't it? It's getting better this episode.
Some things never change. Audio collage, mez mumbling, synth trumps, ring modulations. So what I think I said this last time, but what I think is that this almost seems like a remix with a tune.
I'm sorry to pull you up, Brendan, but
I know.
we did.
We agree. We did agree we would never mention our previous episodes. My My feeling is this could easily be like a very solid, straightforward tune that Mez, in his wisdom, just stripped all of the instrumentation out of and just left the effects essentially, because he's singing quote unquote melodically. He's singing a song, he's singing a tune. And I kind of feel like this is super sweet. And maybe he just thought, oh, that regular tune's no good. It's too generic, as Al might say. And he stripped out the actual tune, the guitars, the bass, and just left those synth trumpets and an audio collage running through. Pitch shifted fun at the end. Brilliant. The mad New English dog has lost the plot. He'd lost the plot, gone to the Rottweilers, the stolen yellow card, the money's in the bank, delay on Monday, platonic Corps staff by banking staff. The mad dog, English dog man. People like you want to be like me, hard men, to sax and drumming Jazz FM. What do you reckon, Alistair?
I like it.
You might.
Experimental audio collage, bit sort of like quite rocky at times. I like the beginning, the vocal at the beginning, the all that stuff, which I think last time I mentioned reminded me of Life of Brian.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
But yeah, I thought there was something on the list we hadn't ticked off, but now you got that one.
But yeah, this kind of stuff can listen to all day. I'm very much in my comfort zone, listening to stuff that's just a little bit demented. Nice. And if he has stripped down all the instruments, he's from the recording, he may well have made a massive improvement to it. But having said that, I do quite like the LP for like one of the later ones, or the period ones, whichever way you want to look at it. But for me, yeah, this one's going through. Calling it.
Sweet, brilliant. Matt, rescued by the join Jazz FM bit, but still quite missable. Leon, title from Great Proggers Van de Graaff Generator, not as good as Light Fireworks, but better than Northwest Fashion Show. And Ezra, I don't think he said anything. Didn't hear out about it.
He said it in the last one, didn't he?
He did. He said, I've got nothing to say. What do you reckon, Philip, to this?
What do I think of this? I'm not quite sure, to be honest with you. It's more listenable than it probably deserves to be, given what's making it up. It's not particularly. It starts off with pigs snorting and Mez doing like warm-up exercises. I'm reminded of the start of. We've seen that horn blow. Is it horn? No, mind horn.
Yeah.
That came out, where he just starts off with him going, bastard. That was all I kept thinking at the start, really. But it's surprisingly listenable, given the fact I have not got a fucking clue what he's on about, really. And it feels like Al was saying, really, a bit music concrete, the whole thing. It's I mean, and it's all right for that kind of thing. Yeah, I don't really know what else to say about this one. I've been listening to a bit of Bernard, what's his name, Parmigiani. I don't know if you ever come across him before, like French. I think he was before him, but obviously of the
name
same
doesn't ring a bell. No, what is that music concrete or?
Yeah, kind of like early electronic music from the 70s, I guess, post sort of, or maybe even contemporary Stockhausen. But it's worth checking out because it sounds quite good even now. A lot of the stuff that he did, but they're all quite short tracks. So it's something that I'm only really dipping my toes into, that style of music making. But it's all right. There's plenty of these that I don't like, but this was okay.
It's an interesting little audio collage, but I think as we're getting through, between the two rounds, listening to it 20 or 30 times, it hasn't revealed anything more at this. And if anything, I've become more annoyed by the fact of Mez singing essentially quite a straightforward vocal over a video.
Do you want a backing track?
Yeah, basically, I would have liked him to do something like we done more on Panzer or Post Nearly, a bit more spoken word or something that was more in keeping with the music. But Tim has no time for this, surely.
What's he put? I was listening to a bit of that spoken word stuff the other day, actually. There's one that is it Eleni who's reading some bits in, it must be on Panda Panzer, actually. It's really good. The layering's really good on it. All right, what's he put? Nice bit of collage, but not exactly essential, is it? It's the kind of thing where you hear it and then forget everything about it 2 seconds after it ends, except for the impression of Mez going, no, 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 no.
I basically did it to force Stuart to vote for the joke. So let's see how that plan worked. Which way's Stu gone on this?
Mad Men, 1.5. Joke 0.
Oh, so he's gone for Mad Men. Oh well. Oh well. I'm going for the joke. I bet you, Phil.
Yeah, I gotta go the joke. Yeah.
Max has gone for the joke as well. What about you, Alistair?
I've already called it, Madman.
You have, haven't you? It's close, and if Ezra's made himself clear, but he hasn't, has he? He split his vote because he's basically said both of them should go out. So I'm counting that as a split vote, and as we don't have a Michael E, that puts the joke on 3.5 and Madman on 2.5. So the joke does indeed go through. So that is Distilled Mug Art, the classical, and and the joke have gone through into round 3, and we say goodbye to Das Katerer, Twister, and Mad Maggie. Well, we got through it, lads. It was a minefield, but I'm sure it just gets easier from this point on. The players out with that.
We don't have to talk about those songs ever.
No. Let's finish by playing the entire Krishnan Guru Murphy interview just on the way.
Actually, can we play some tracks off your Banger album?
Which one?
Which one?
All right, so we have to decide: are we going to do a non-fall next week, or we're just going to have the week off? I'll have a think, and if you want to do it, we can do a non-fall Christmas episode. But
I'll do it.
Should we do a non-fall Christmas episode?
Let's do it.
We can just chuck in our favorite Christmas oddities.
Exactly. Anything wintry, seasonal, Christmassy.
It makes it a bit easier in the long run, doesn't it?
No, that'll be fun. So get gathering, and maybe we'll see if any of our buddies want to join us and throw in some of their favorite Christmas tunes. I'll play this song to see us out, and all the best, everyone. This is probably just going out just before Christmas. So Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks for supporting us. I think we just hit 25,000 downloads across all our episodes, which is pretty good for such a small fry organization. Now, is it to you, Al? Nothing. You get millions of TikToks every day.
I do. I didn't.
We're gonna have